Welcome back to Simbright Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this class, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful pencil skirt with spiral flounces below it, as you can see right there. This is actually very beautiful and gorgeous. You can attach it to the upper bodies. You can make it as a skirt and rock it to your occasion. Okay, so if this is what you want to learn in this class, please stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. So in today's class, I'll be teaching you how to make this flare on a pencil skirt or a pencil gown. So it's actually a spiral flare on a pencil skirt or gown, and we'll be working with a Regling boning and our fabric. So you can decide to work with any fabric of your choice. It can be a scuba fabric, it can be a dolphin satin fabric, okay, it can be a crepe. So I have 2 yards of my dolphin satin fabric here, and I'm going to make out my skirts, pencil skirt. I'm going to draft my pencil skirt right now from it, and I'll also have my flounce drafted from it, okay, with 2 yards of fabric. So now I'm placing my fabric on fold. Once I place it on fold, that will form my 1 yard for me, and then I'll also place it on another fold. So I'll turn it this way, so I'll be able to have my zip allowance. So I'll just leave my zip allowance of 1 inch right here. Can you see that? So I'm arranging it to have my zip allowance. So next is to create my border line. So I'll have my center front and my center back right here for my zipper. So I'll make my border line for my skirt. This is a pencil skirt we are making here. So this border line is going to be my waistline. So from this waistline, we are going to draft whatever skirt pattern piece we want to draft from it. So after that, I'll be placing, if I'm attaching this to a top, I'll place my half length here, or my front length. I'll place it. So my front length here is 17, and my hip is 28. I'll make a mark. That is my real hip. From there, I'll count 1-2 inches. That is my upper hip. Okay, so once I've marked that, I'll go ahead and place my knee line. So my actual knee is 41, but to make this pencil gown with flounce, you have to step up 1, 2, 3, 4 to create that flounce effect. So whatever your knee position is, count 1, 2, 3, 4 for it, and that will be where this skirt will stop or terminate. So I'll just go ahead and rule my lines. So that one, this is my hip line, my lower hip, and this is my upper hip line. So already we have our waistline. So like I said, this is the center front, and you can see it's on fold, and this is my center back where I have my 1 inch zip allowance. So I'm going to place my tape at the center front now. I'm taking my waist measurement. So my waist measurement here is 9 inches. Then I'll add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. There is no dart. There is no dart. I repeat, there is no dart for this dress. Okay, so I'm not putting any dart allowance. Then I'll come over to my hip. On my upper hip, I'll measure my real hip. My hip is 46. Divide by 4 will give me 10.5. So this is my 10.5. I'll add 1 inch to my 11.5. I'm sorry about that. Plus 1 inch zipper. 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'll place my 12.5, which I had here, back to this point. So there and then I'll just make a straight line on this from here to here, and then I'll connect with my pattern ruler to the hip position. So this is my hip curve. It's called a hip curve. So a hip curve is usually used for making skirts and trousers. So I've marked from my hip, including my allowance, 1 inch sewing allowance. Then coming over to the knee position, since it's a pencil skirt, so whatever you have right here, whatever you have on this, from here to here, I have 12.5. Take away 2 inches from it. So 12.5 minus 2 inches is 10.5. So I'll come here and place my 10.5. So this is the 10.5. So at this 10.5 right now, I'll bring back this curve ruler, the down part of it, or you can even use a straight ruler to connect it. Okay, so let me use a straight ruler so it will not be difficult for you. So the most important thing is that at this hip curve, you have that line straight, so you don't have any bulge at that point. So now we are done with this dress, and the next thing we want to do is to cut out our pattern. So I'll add a 0.5 inch to sew this upper piece either to the upper parts. After cutting my skirt pattern piece, this is what I have. So this part I have right here is my upper hip, my upper skirt piece. So if you are not careful, this part and this part might be confusing, because what we have here is almost the same measurement with what we have on top. So I'll just go ahead and make a mark to show the upper part. So this, I'll just use this mark to show the upper part. So I want you to note that there is a design at the front of this skirt, and that design we have right there, I'll just step up by 3 inches for it. So if I step up by 3 inches from here, I measure 3 inches. I'll come with my ruler because it's somehow inverted. I'll place my ruler from this end to that end, or I'll go up by 3 inches because that design is not really so big. So it's just a V design. So I'll measure 4 inches at this point to create the design and connect that to the 3 inches. Can you see? So when we'll be sewing the flounce right now, we'll go this way for the front. So that V line, this is how I'm going to cut it. I'm cutting it this way. Can you see? So by the time I get here, I'll just blend it. Can you see how I did that? So it has created that illusion. Okay, only on the down part of the front skirts. Okay, so please take note of it that this is done only at the down part. So now it's time for us to start sewing the upper piece of this skirt. So I'll quickly open up what I have right here. So this is actually what we are talking about. Can you see? That is what we are talking about. So I'll pick up my down piece of this skirt now. So you have to be very careful so you know the part that is for up and down. So I'll match this and sew, and then I'll match this and sew. So what I have here is the center back. So I'll just go ahead and do what you can see how it's matching. I'll sew at 0.5 1 inch because that is what I added. I also add 1 inch. So once we come back, I will be showing you what next to do. I'm done sewing the size of the skirts, okay, and I even stitched the back, center back, leaving the zipper allowance. So this is the part we are going to attach the flounce with the boning, okay, the flay with the boning. So I'll come over again with my fabric. So it depends on the length of your skirt. If you want your skirt length wherever it is by choice, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm using doing 2 steps for my flay for the skirt piece, and these 2 steps I'm going to cut at 360 for each. But my radius, I'm going to choose a smaller radius. I will cut about 2 or 3 of it, then I'll measure where I'm going to attach it. So for the first flay, the length of the first flay, I need it to be at 10 inches, okay. So then if I add the radius of what I have, I'll be using radius of 2 inches, that is 12 inches. So I'll first fold my 360 this way, and the radius I'll be using for this is just 2 inches to cut this flounce, okay. So this one, there's no calculation of radius. All you need to do is to cut 360 about 2 or 3, join them together, then sew your boning. So the first length, I'm using 12 inches for the first length, including my radius. The actual length is 10 inches, okay. So I'm using 12 inches, then from plus 1 inch sewing allowance, that is 13 inches. So the whole of your length from your radius will be 13 inches, but this is by choice, okay. So next I'll fold it this way. That is exactly our 360 degrees cutting. I'm going to cut right here. So as I'm folding this part, remember the length here is 13, and we also need this part at 13 as well. Can you see? So now I folded my 360. I'll now take my radius of 2 inches. This is my radius of 2 inches. So this radius of 2 inches now, this is it, as you can see. So leaving us with our normal length of 11 inches. So I'll take that 11 inches around the normal way we cut at 360. I'll take the 11 inches, I'll go around with the 11 inches. So I'll just go ahead and cut it out, and that will become my first flay. So this first flay now, this is the radius. The radius is constant because the smaller you cut the radius, the bigger you have, the more flayed you have your flounce. All right, so what I have right here now, I'm going to repeat this for the first step for 3 flays. So when I open it, you can see I have a full circle flay. Can you see? I have a full circle flay. So what I'll do is to open the full circle flay to enable me to join it. Can you see? To enable me to join it to the other ones to form that flounce before we sew our boning. So I'll measure what I have right here, okay. So I'll just take what I have for each, will determine how many I'm going to cut, how many of these flays. So here I have 17 inches. So I'll bring back my skirt piece now. I have 17 inches for each. So this 17 inches for each, I'm going to measure what I have on the part of the skirt part we are going to attach this. Can you see? So this is the center, the back part. So the back part, I'll measure from one end to the other. Here I have 18. Then I'll measure what I have on the front. From that seam allowance, I'll measure from there following that inner curve, going this way, that way, and here I have 22.5. So I'll now add 22.5 plus 18, then I'll be having 30.5. So since I have 16, it means I'm going to cut just 17. I'll just cut two of it. Two of this flay will give me 34, which is more than 30.5 we got there. So just simply cut this length, another one, for the first step. Then I'll show you how to cut the second step. So for the second step, we are going to simply reduce the length. Okay, we are going to simply reduce the length. Remember, we worked with 13, so I'll just take away 3 inches from it and make it 10 inches. So I'm going to place my tape and measure 10 inches. So instead of 13, we'll measure 10 inches. So I'll just place my tape 10 inches for everything. So it depends on the gap you want to give. So this is 10 inches, and I'll pick up that 10 inches and I'm going to fold it. So I'll be able to cut out my radius. So this is it. And at this point, I'll also measure from here to here to see if I have 10 inches. Okay. So I have 10 inches and I'll just go ahead and shift it a little. So I'll go back to take the measurement of my radius at 2 inches. I'll take it all around at 2 inches. All around at 2 inches. So if I do that, this is what I'm going to have. So now the length is 10 inches. So I'll place my tape here, measure 10 inches. 10 inches, and then I'll cut it out. Okay, so everything I have now, cutting my 360. Then I'll just simply cut out this radius. So I'm going to cut 2 of this for the upper one and 2 of the other for the longer one, because it's 2 set steps. So I'll just open them up this way and join them. Okay, I'm going to join them before we sew our boning. Let me do that. All right, so now I've cut 2 each for the smaller and for the bigger size. So I'll just go ahead and join on one flay to make it one flay for the first step, and I'll go ahead and join this to make it one flay. So I'll join them now, then we'll start off the sewing of the boning. All right, so you can see I've joined the 2 flays right now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the boning. And to sew the boning, I'll just go over to the edge of one of them, and we are going to sew this boning on the hem part of it. So this is the hem part of it, that is the floor down part of it. This is the radius part that will be on the skirt. So I'll bring in my boning now, and I'm going to sew this boning. You can see just a little space, not up to or half an inch. I'm going to sew right here, okay, on this part of the boning. So I'll go over to the machine now, and I'm going to place my boning this way. So I'm going to sew just 0.5 inch difference. I'll just sew to the end of this. When I return, I'm going to flip everything this way and top stitch on top of it. So let me do that, and I'm done sewing the 2 of them. Okay, so what I did was I have to stitch like I demonstrated at about 0.5 inch for this. I still have this part unsewn, so I'm going to, you can see how I dropped it. So I'll also top stitch on top of this now. So once I top stitch, it comes out to the front nice and beautifully well. So I'll just go over now and sew following this line. I'll take it all around for the rest of it. Then we'll now bring it back to sew them to the dress. For us to start sewing the other part of it, so I just thought of showing you how you can finish up this part very nicely. So remember, this part is unstitched and we stitched only at this point, so I will advise you leave about 0.5 inch from here. So I'm going to fold this in first. Once I fold it in to have a perfect finishing, can you see? So the stitches I have here, that is what I'm going to use to continue my sewing. So I'll keep sewing on top of it. So as I'm sewing now, I'm folding in what I have. So you have to do this gently and slowly. Okay, so you can see how neat what we have right here. You can see it's actually neat at that point. So you just take your time because this is boning and it's not actually going to be that easy. So if you don't want to sew that way, you can first of all serge this part. Okay, make sure you weave this part neatly. Okay, because folding it in before you sew might be difficult for some of you, especially the beginners. So I just thought of showing you another method you can sew this, but you need to serge this part because it frails. Okay, so I'll keep sewing it. You can see how I'm bending it. So I'll just carefully making sure I have it. Okay, so this one will really be easy for you. So if you are using a fabric like doll face, this is, you have to serge. But if you are using scuba does not frail, so it will actually be easy for you. So I'll finish up the sewing right now. We'll proceed to the sewing of this into the alright. So I'm done sewing, as you can see. So what I was actually saying is that you need to serge here if you are using a doll face satin fabric. But if I'm using a scuba fabric, all you need to do is just to trim off this excess neatly, because scuba does not frail. But for doll face, you need to serge or weave this part, or you use the other method of tucking it in. But tucking it in might be difficult because this is spiral. Okay, so it will be better you weave before you sew. So I'll just take my time and trim off this part because I did not serge it. So if you serge and sew, you have a neat finishing at that point. So I'm going to sew this right now. I'm going to place the what I have here is the smaller part, the bigger part. So I'm going to place the upper parts together, seam line to seam line. You can see the seam line here and here. Okay, so one is going to be on top of the other while the other will be below. The longer one will be below. Can you see? So I'm going to stitch them together right now as one piece. So after sewing the both together, this is what I have. Can you see that? So the next thing I'm going to do now is to start sewing this into the skirt piece. So I'll start sewing this from the center front, the part that I have the seam allowance. I'm going to stitch right side to right side. Where I have the seam allowance will be at the center front. So I'll keep sewing it this way till I go around. So by the time it goes round, this is what we are going to have. So if you want, you might also, the parts that we have the stitches, you might keep it by the side. Okay, so if you want it to be by the side, so it matches up with what we have on the sides, I think that would be better. So it will be on the seam side. So I'll start from that seam side and I'll sew round. Then this the part. All right, so now I'm done sewing the flounce. I'm done sewing it right there to the skirt piece. Okay, so this is the center front, the part that went in. Can you see? So you can see that that part is inner, just like we cut it. So that is how we come to the end of this tutorial, and I believe that this class was helpful to you. So if you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell to receive videos like this every day. Like this video, share to family and friends, drop your comment in the comment section and your suggestions as well. Thank you for coming. See you in the next class. Bye.